I was made aware and was like, oh my goodness, they're doing a story on like a movie, I think it was a TV movie. So it was the
Us?
UFO incident.
Mm.
And James Earl Jones was one of the main stars who played Barney. Barry.
Estelle Parsons played
Estelle
Barney.
Parsons, that's right.
Yes.
Yes. So that to me, that was very straightforward. It was limited and only because of the time that it was aired. They didn't have, certain special effects or no CGI or anything like that. But it seemed to be pretty much, straightforward telling of the whole incident. And one of the things that was outstanding to me about that story, I mean, the whole story within itself, but one thing that really grounded it in truth and them being under hypnosis and the stress that Barney in particular, and then I actually online heard the actual real tapes. And from those tapes, when you hear Barney in particular, like almost going into a hysterical state, that's not something I would say that you could fake. I think anybody, need a clinical background to tell when somebody's in a particular type of stressful situation. And those tapes, to me, that grounds and cements it all because he was certainly disturbed, like I would think many people would. You can't ever say how you would react in a particular situation when you feel threatened. But to hear that, I think I was just like really blown away. Like, wow. I mean, you felt so bad for him because no one wants to hear, somebody being in that type of stressful environment where you don't know if you're going to live or die, and it was certainly that concern was there. I know I mentioned before. I know Betty had a very different way of handling it, and she seemed to be a bit more calm and subdued with her emotion with processing it. I think if your whole social order and way of processing things are shook, I think you have a lot to kind of process there. And it seemed like that might have been some of the things that he struggled with and may even unfortunately played to him not being in the best of health with handling that in the remainder of his life. Can you kind of elaborate on those tapes
And remember
mm-hmm.
that Barney had conscious memory of observing those non-humans. Betty was in the car. She couldn't see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Barney had the distinct impression that he was about to be captured when something started to drop down from the underside of that craft.
Mm-hmm.
Barney was the one who was in a hysterical state, running back to the car, screaming to Betty that they had to get out of there or they were going to be captured.
Mm-hmm.
Betty did not have this experience.
Mm-hmm.
If she did, I suspect that she would have been in the same condition that Barney was in.
Right.
But the part of the experience that she had under hypnosis, where they were at that roadblock, and when those non-humans were coming toward her, was just as intense as that experience that Barney had in that field. The difference is Betty had amnesia for that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Barney didn't have amnesia for that part,
mm-hmm.
where he saw those non-humans and felt threatened.
Mm-hmm. And you stressed before, like I think you were setting the record straight for those who said something he made reference to a Nazi or something to that sort.
Yes, I wanted to set the record straight that those with a Nazi agenda who believe that Nazis live under the South Pole and are working with these gray aliens have written and stated that Betty and Barney had a MyLab experience and that there were Nazis on that craft. And I want to make it clear that there were not. There is no evidence anywhere in that hypnosis with either Betty or Barney that they saw humans of any kind on that craft. The only statement that Barney made when he was having an abreaction, which is a strong emotional release, And this was because Dr. Simon said to him, I want you to compare this to something in your past for which you had the same degree of fear or the same emotional reaction. Barney said that the one standing at the window about to capture him, staring down at him, reminded him of a Nazi. He said he had an evil face. And then he had this huge emotional reaction. Never again, when Dr. Simon revisited that scene time and time again, did Barney ever state that he saw a Nazi. He didn't. It was only through that suggestion by Dr. Simon.
And Dr. Simon, how did they actually becoming from, I didn't recall the connection with Dr. Simon. Were they, he was suggested, or he was referred to them by?
Well, Barney developed post-traumatic stress disorder, what we call today.
Mm-hmm.
And he developed bleeding ulcers, high blood pressure, he couldn't sleep, and he could not heal with traditional medical treatment. So he was referred to a psychiatrist in New Hampshire. But this psychiatrist then referred Barney to Dr. Benjamin Simon, because Dr. Simon was the person who specialized in using deep trance hypnosis to get to the facts, to the real story about what caused this physiological problem for Barney.
At that point, we left the craft and went back to the car, and we stood there by the car and we watched the craft leave. We saw it become surrounded by a fiery, revolving mass of some kind. We could see the UFO in the middle of this. And it lifted up, dipped down, went right straight up, and was gone. I received a copy of the radar report from Pease Air Force Base, where they had tracked an unidentified craft at 2:14 a.m. Just about the time we estimate that the UFO left. We went back and we found the spot where we were captured. It was not a fantasy. It was a real experience. And I believe that I have enough evidence to establish that.